Know the notary laws and safeguard your notary business. Introducing the book, Notary Law and Liability, Understanding State Regulations, Insurance, and Avoiding UPL by Derek Spruill. What you don't know can destroy the notary business you've been building. Get your copy of Notary Law and Liability by Derek Spruill from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Books of Million, Bookshop.org, Mobile Notary by DerekSpruill.com, or download from Kindle today.
Hello, and welcome back to Notary Knowledge. I am your host, and I am so glad you're here today because, honestly, I am just buzzing with energy for this topic.
It's a good one.
It's a great one. So the other night, I couldn't sleep, and I was just flipping through channels. You know how it is.
Oh, I do.
And I land on a marathon of that show, Storage Wars. You know the one I'm talking about.
Of course. The big dramatic reveal when the door rolls up.
Exactly. The lock gets cut, the door slams open, and you've got this crowd of people squinting into the darkness, hoping to find a hidden treasure.
And then the guy in the back yells, UUP.
Yes. The UUP. It's just great television. It pulls you right in. But I'm sitting there watching them bid on these units, and my notary brain just starts firing.
I know where this is going.
I'm thinking, okay, the auction is exciting, the bidding is fun, but what happened before all this? How did we get here?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is the part that doesn't make for thrilling TV.
Right, because you can't just decide one day to sell off someone's personal belongings. There has to be a process, a paper trail.
A massive, complicated, and incredibly high-stakes paper trail.
And that right there is where we come in. That's our world.
That's the notary reality versus the reality TV show. It's not as flashy as finding a classic car under a dusty tarp, but the work that a notary does before that auctioneer even shows up, it's everything.
Everything.
Because if that paperwork isn't perfect, if one affidavit is notarized incorrectly, that whole storage war can turn into a legal war really, really fast.
And nobody wants to be in the middle of a legal war. Well, to help us navigate this legal minefield, I have our expert on all things procedural. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I'm ready to get into the details.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the drama of the auction because from a notary's perspective, all the real drama is in the paperwork.
In the details.
Absolutely. We're the ones who stand between a facility manager and, a potentially career-ending lawsuit, or worse.
Worse. Okay, now you've got me hooked. We're definitely going to have to get into that. But before we jump in, just a little housekeeping.
Of course.
If you're enjoying the show, if you're getting value from this, please do us a huge favor. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you're using to listen.
It really does help. It lets other notaries find this community, and we want to keep this conversation growing.
We do. And speaking of growing, if you really want to level up your game, you have to check out the Notary Knowledge series of books by Derek Spruill.
Oh, absolutely. They're not just your standard state handbooks. They are practical, real-world guides for notaries who want to be masters of their craft.
They really are the real deal. Derek fills in all those gaps that the official guides just don't cover. If you're serious about this business, you need those books on your shelf.
And it connects so perfectly to what we're talking about today. Just like we discussed in our last session on general affidavits. Today is about applying those same skills, but in a very specific, very high-risk niche.
So it's not just about witnessing a signature.
Not at all. It's about protecting property rights. It's about upholding due process, even when there's no courtroom involved.
I love that. So, lay it out for us. What's the official theme for today's discussion?
Today, we are talking about storage wars and paperwork. Notarizing affidavits for self-storage lien sales.
That sounds intense.
It can be. And I want to frame this for everyone listening. Picture this. You're an experienced notary. It's a Tuesday afternoon, and you get a frantic call.
Okay.
It's a manager from a local self-storage place. They sound stressed. They say they have a dozen units going to auction next week, and they need you to come over right now to notarize a whole stack of lien sale affidavits.
Right now. The classic rush job.
The classic rush job. Now, if you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't understand the gravity of those documents, you might just go in, stamp, sign, collect your fee, and leave.
But you'd be missing the point.
You'd be missing the whole point. You wouldn't realize that you are the final gatekeeper in a legal process that strips people of their property. You're the last check and balance.
That is a heavy, heavy responsibility. You're literally the last line of defense before someone potentially loses, I don't know, their family photos, their heirlooms, maybe even their car.
Exactly. It's not just junk in those boxes. It's people's lives. So let's start at the beginning and break down this whole business of lienters.
Let's do it. First up, the business of liens. Now, when I think of storing things, I just picture a big warehouse. Is a self-storage unit just a tiny warehouse?
Legally speaking, no, not at all. And that distinction is the foundation for everything we're about to discuss.
Okay, so break that down for me.
In the legal world, you have a warehouseman on one hand and a self-service storage facility on the other. They sound similar, but they operate under completely different rules.
Warehouseman versus self-storage facility. What's the core difference?
A warehouseman is what we call a bailee. It's a fancy term.
A bailee.
Right. It means they take legal custody of your goods. If you give me your antique furniture to store in my warehouse, I issue you a warehouse receipt, a bill of lading. I am now responsible for the care of your stuff.
So if the roof leaks on my antique sofa...
It's on me, the warehouseman, because I have custody. I'm the guardian of the goods.
Got it. Okay. So how is a self-storage facility different?
A self-storage facility is really more of a landlord-tenant relationship. They're not guarding your goods. They're renting you space.
Like a tiny apartment for your stuff.
That's the perfect analogy. They rent you a concrete box, you put your own lock on the door, and you keep exclusive control. The facility owner doesn't know what's in there. And frankly, they don't want to know what's in there.
Ah, that makes sense. So they're a landlord, not a guardian.
Precisely. They are a landlord until a default happens. The moment a tenant stops paying rent, that legal relationship begins to shift. And that's where we get to this really unique legal concept called the self-help remedy.
Self-help. I've heard that term. It sounds, I don't know, like something positive.
It sounds benign, doesn't it? But in this context, self-help is an incredibly powerful and, frankly, dangerous legal tool. Okay, well, think about a regular residential landlord. If a tenant stops paying rent on their apartment, what can't the landlord do?
They can't just throw the person's stuff out on the street and change the locks.
Exactly. They'd be sued into oblivion. They have to go to court. They need an eviction order. They need the sheriff to come out. It's a whole long, drawn-out process.
It's due process.
It's due process. But the self-storage industry in nearly every state has this unique legal carve-out. They are granted a statutory self-help remedy.
Okay.
This means the facility operator can seize the property, cut the lock, inventory the contents, and sell everything at a public auction without ever setting foot in the courtroom.
Wow. Wait, so they get to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner all in one.
That's a very good way of putting it. They are acting on a power given to them by state law, and because they get to bypass the entire judicial system.
The law demands they follow the rules perfectly.
Perfectly. There is zero margin for error. If they miss a notification deadline by a single day, if they don't use the right bold font in their notice letter, or, and here's where we come in, if the final affidavit isn't notarized correctly, the whole thing can be deemed a wrongful sale.
And wrongful sale just screams lawsuit.
It is a lawsuit waiting to happen. And we're not just talking about getting sued for the value of a used couch. We're talking about claims for conversion, emotional distress, punitive damages. It can get very, very expensive.
So for all the notaries listening, when that stressed out manager calls you, you need to realize that the document they're asking you to notarize isn't just a piece of paper.
Not at all.
You are the final check. You are verifying that this manager is swearing under penalty of perjury that they followed every single one of those steps flawlessly.
You are the gatekeeper of procedural integrity. That's your role. When they sign that lien sale affidavit, they are making a series of factual claims. I sent the notice on this date. I waited the required time. I placed the ad. When you affix your seal to that, you are memorializing their sworn testimony.
You're witnessing them take on all that legal responsibility.
That's it, exactly.
That just completely changes the stakes. It's not just a $10 notary fee anymore. Okay, so a lot has to happen before we even get the call. Let's walk through that timeline, the pre-notarization phase.
Right. We have to understand what happens before the affidavit even lands on our desk, because the affidavit is basically a summary of all those prior actions.
So day one, the rent is due. I forget to pay. Is my stuff getting sold tomorrow?
No, not at all. There's usually what's called a grace period. Most rental agreements and state laws give you about 5 to 7 days. You'll probably get hit with a late fee, but the lien process hasn't started yet.
Okay, that's a relief.
Then after that, you typically enter what's called the pre-lien phase. This could be anywhere from, say, day 31 to day 60 of non-payment.
So a whole month has gone by, I still haven't paid. Now what?
Now the official clock starts ticking. The facility is legally required to send a formal, written notice of claim or notice of lien sale.
And this isn't just a friendly reminder email.
No, this is a very specific, legally regulated document.
Yeah.
It has to contain certain key elements or it's invalid.
What kind of elements?
Generally, three main things. First, it needs an itemized statement of the charges.
Right.
It can't just say you owe us money. It has to be specific. Rent for March, $150. Late fee, $25. Lien processing fee, $50.
Broken down.
Itemized. Second, it must make a clear demand for payment and give the tenant a deadline. The law usually specifies a minimum number of days, often 14 days, to pay the debt in full and reclaim their property.
And the third thing?
The third thing is a very conspicuous statement. Often it's required to be in bold print or all caps.
So you can't miss it.
You can't miss it. And it has to state explicitly that if the debt is not paid by the deadline, the property inside the unit will be advertised for sale and sold at a public auction. No ambiguity.
So how do they prove they sent this? I'm picturing the old school certified mail green card.
That was, and in many places still is, the gold standard. Verified mail, like certified mail, gives them a receipt from the post office. It's proof of mailing.
But we're in the 21st century. Hasn't email taken over?
It has, and the laws are catching up. Many states have modernized their statutes to allow for notice via email.
Really? So you could lose everything in your storage unit because of an email that went to your spam folder?
Well, there are usually safeguards built in. First, the tenant typically has to have agreed to receive notices by email in their original rental agreement.
Okay, so you have to opt in.
You opt in. And second, the facility often has a higher burden of proof. They might need to show the email was delivered, maybe using a read receipt function. If the email bounces back as undeliverable, they almost always have to default back to sending it via physical mail.
That makes sense. You need to ensure the person actually has a chance to see the notice.
Exactly. Now, here's a quick tip for notaries. Sometimes you might get called in early in this process to notarize an affidavit of mailing.
Oh, I've seen those for other things.
Right. In this context, the facility manager signs a document that says, under oath, I, Jane Smith, certify that on March 15th, I placed the required legal notices for units A, B, and C into the U.S. mail.
And as the notary, you're not saying you saw her do it.
Correct. That's a critical distinction.
Oh.
You are not verifying the act of mailing. You didn't go to the post office with her. You are verifying that she, the signer, is swearing under oath that she performed the act.
You're notarizing her sworn statement about the mailing.
Precisely. It keeps the liability and the responsibility squarely on the signer, but your notarization creates a powerful official record that she made that sworn statement.
Got it. Okay, this is a perfect place to pause. We're going to take a very quick break for our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to talk about what happens next, how the public finds out about this sale. Don't go anywhere. Commercial break placeholder. And we are back. You are listening to Notary Knowledge, and we are working our way through the complex process of self-storage lien sales. Before the break, we covered the critical notice that gets sent to the tenant. But what if the tenant doesn't respond? The facility can't just have a secret sale, right?
No, absolutely not. That would completely defeat the purpose. And that brings us to the next mandatory step, the public notice.
This is where they tell the world about the auction.
Exactly. The law requires the sale to be public to ensure transparency and hopefully to get a fair price for the contents.
So how do they do that? I'm picturing a tiny ad in the back of the local newspaper.
Well, you're not wrong. That's the old school method, and it is still the required method in many, many states.
The classified section, next yard sales, and lost pets.
That's the one. The statute will be very specific. It might say something like, the advertisement must be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the county where the facility is located. And there are rules for how often it has to run, I assume? Oh, yes. Typically, it has to be published once a week for 2 consecutive weeks leading up to the auction date. The ad has to include the facility's address, the date and time of the sale, and usually the name of the tenant and their unit number.
But let's be honest, who reads the print newspaper classifieds anymore?
That is the million-dollar question and a huge point of debate in the self-storage industry. It feels so archaic.
It does, which is why there must be a new school method.
There is. Thankfully, many states have amended their laws to allow for a more modern form of public notice. They can now advertise the sale on a publicly accessible website that is customarily used for auctions.
So like dedicated storage auction websites.
Exactly. There are several big national platforms for this. It makes so much more sense because you're reaching an audience of actual interested bidders, not just someone doing the Sunday crossword puzzle.
You get more eyeballs, which means more bidders, which hopefully means a better price.
And that leads directly to a very important legal standard that notaries should be aware of. The sale must be commercially reasonable.
Commercially reasonable. Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
It means the facility has to conduct the sale in a way that's fair and designed to get a decent price. They can't just sell a unit they know is full of valuable antiques to the manager's cousin for $20.
That would not be commercially reasonable.
Not even close. It's about good faith. Using a popular online auction site is seen as very commercially reasonable because it maximizes exposure. The old newspaper ad.
Mm-hmm.
Some might argue it's just barely meeting the standard these days.
Is there a benchmark? Like, how many people need to show up for it to be a valid auction?
It varies. But a common rule of thumb in the industry is that you want to see at least 3 independent bidders register for the sale. If only one person shows up, or nobody, you can't really claim you held a competitive public auction.
That makes sense. Now, in all of this, there's a specific group of people who get special protection, correct?
Yes, and this is non-negotiable. This is a federal law that overrides any state law. We're talking about the Service Members Civil Relief Act or the SCRA.
The protection for active duty military members.
Correct. The SCRA is very clear. You cannot enforce a storage lien and sell the property of an active duty military member without first getting a court order. Period.
It doesn't matter how long they've been delinquent.
It doesn't matter. The idea is to protect those who are serving the country from having to worry about their personal belongings being sold while they're deployed or otherwise unable to manage their affairs.
It seems incredibly fair. So how does this connect back to the notary?
It connects directly to the affidavit you're about to notarize. Almost every single lien sale affidavit will contain a specific declaration, a clause that says something to the effect of, I certify, under penalty of perjury, that I have conducted a search and have determined that this tenant is not on active military duty.
Oh, wow. So when the manager signs that, they're swearing they've actually checked.
They're swearing they've done their due diligence. They're supposed to use the Department of Defense's official database to verify the tenant's military status. When you, the notary, administer the oath and notarize their signature on that document, you are memorializing their sworn statement that they performed that check.
And if they were lazy and just checked the box without looking?
And it turns out the tenant is a soldier deployed overseas, that facility and that manager are in a world of legal trouble. It's a violation of federal law.
And your notary journal, your record of that notarization, becomes Exhibit A. It proves that on that date, at that time, that manager swore to you that they had checked.
It absolutely does. It underscores why you can never, ever skip the verbal oath. Asking, do you solemnly swear that the contents of this document are true and correct to the best of your knowledge is not just a formality. It is the core of the Notarial Act, especially here.
That really drives the point home.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the part I've been really waiting for. The heavy hitters.
Right.
We've been talking about boxes of books and old furniture, but what happens when the winning bidder looks inside and there's a car, or a motorcycle, or a boat? This is where the complexity and the risk goes up tenfold. This is what we call the chain of title problem.
Chain of title.
It's one thing to sell a box of clothes. The person who buys it just takes the box and they own the clothes. There's no government paperwork.
But you can't do that with a car.
You can't. A car, a boat, an RV, a motorcycle, these things have titles. They are registered with the state. The buyer can't just start driving around. They need to go to the DMV and get a new title issued in their name. And the original owner, the tenant who defaulted, is probably not going to be very cooperative in signing the old title over to the new buyer.
You think? Hey, sorry I sold your truck for $500, but could you come down to the DMV with me and sign some papers? It's just not going to happen.
So how does the buyer get a clean title?
The lien sale affidavit that you notarized becomes the legal bridge. It's the magic document.
It replaces the original title?
In effect, yes. The buyer takes that notarized affidavit along with a bill of sale to the DMV. That affidavit tells the DMV This vehicle was seized and sold legally, according to state statute. The previous owner's rights have been extinguished. Please issue a new, clean title to the bearer of this document.
So that one piece of paper you notarized is what allows for the legal transfer of ownership of a vehicle.
That's right. And for that reason, the DMVs are notoriously incredibly strict about these forms.
They scrutinize every little detail.
Every dot, every comma. If there is any error on that affidavit, a wrong date, an incorrect VIN, or a faulty notarization, the DMV will reject it on the spot.
And then what happens?
Chaos. The buyer can't get a title for the car they just paid for. They can't register it. They can't sell it. They get angry. They go back to the storage facility manager,
Who then looks at the notary who handled the paperwork?
It's a messy, cascading failure. And there's another layer to this with vehicles. Law enforcement notification.
You have to tell the police you have the car.
You do. As soon as a facility takes possession of a unit with a vehicle in it, they usually have a very short window, maybe 5 to 7 days, to notify the local police or sheriff's department.
Why is that?
To make sure the vehicle isn't stolen. To run the plates, check the VIN. They need to ensure it's not connected to a crime before they try to sell it.
That makes perfect sense.
And here's the real kicker. In many jurisdictions, if the facility fails to make that law enforcement notification within the required time frame, they legally forfeit their right to charge any storage fees for that vehicle.
Get out. So if they forget to make one phone call, they can't collect on months of back rent for that car.
That's often the penalty. The law sees it as such a critical step that the punishment for failing to do it is severe. But let's talk about even more severe penalties. I mentioned felonies at the beginning of the show.
Yes, you did. The F word.
In some states, particularly when it comes to boats and vessels, knowingly falsifying information on a foreclosure or lien sale affidavit is not a misdemeanor. It is a third-degree felony.
A felony for paperwork.
Yes, because you're not just filling out a form. You are using a legal document to essentially steal a high-value asset. You are fraudulently creating a new chain of title. If you swear that you notified the owner when you didn't, or that you held a public auction when it was really a private sale, you are committing a serious crime.
And this is why the notary's role as the person administering the oath is so vital. We are the shield. We are that moment of pause.
You are the speed bump of conscience. That moment where the signer has to look you in the eye and verbally swear that everything they put on that paper is the truth.
So, from a practical standpoint, for the notaries listening, are these just generic affidavits or are they specific government forms?
Almost always. They're specific numbered government forms. A DMV form, a Department of Transportation form, they'll have codes like VP147 or VTR265-S. They are not just something typed up in Microsoft Word.
And government forms are notoriously picky.
Extremely. Which brings me to a huge practical tip for every notary. 2 words. Wet ink signatures.
Meaning the original physical signature.
Yes. For many of these title-related processes, the DMV will not accept a photocopy or a scan. They want the original document with the actual ink on the page from the signer and the notary. And the second, even bigger tip, like no whiteout.
The dreaded whiteout, the enemy of all official documents.
It is the kiss of death on a DMV affidavit. If you make an error in the notary certificate, if the date is wrong, do not try to correct it. Don't use correction tape. Don't cross it out and initial.
What do?
You start over. With a fresh form, a DMV clerk is trained to see any correction or alteration as a potential red flag for fraud. They will almost certainly reject it.
So the advice is, better to waste a piece of paper and 2 minutes of your time than to have the whole transaction blow up 3 weeks from now.
100%. Start fresh. Do it right.
That is some solid, actionable advice. All right, we're going to take one more short break. When we get back, we'll talk about the auction itself, what happens with the money, and then we are opening up the listener mailbag. Stay with us. Commercial break placeholder.
Welcome back to Notary Knowledge. We are in the final segment of our discussion on storage lawn sales. We have followed the paper trail from the first missed payment to the notices, the ads, and the very scary DMV forms. Now, it's finally auction day.
And the main event.
Does it really happen like on TV, with a crowd of people gathered around an open unit?
It definitely still does. That's the traditional in-person auction. The auctioneer physically cuts the lock, the door goes up, and the bidders can look inside.
But they can't go in and rummage around, right? No, absolutely not. The rule is typically that they can't cross the threshold of the unit. They have to make their bids based only on what they can see from the outside.
That's the gamble, the Storage Wars way. But you mentioned things are moving online.
They are, and very quickly. Online auctions are becoming the standard. The manager takes detailed photos of the unit's contents, uploads them to a platform, and people can bid from anywhere.
That seems a lot safer and probably more efficient, less confrontation.
It is. It reduces physical conflicts, but it also increases the importance of a clear digital paper trail. So once the bidding ends, either in person or online, the winner gets a bill of sale.
Is the bill of sale a document that we would notarize?
Sometimes. It depends on the state and the situation. The bill of sale is essentially the receipt. It transfers ownership. In some jurisdictions, the auctioneer also has to sign a certification attesting that the sale was conducted fairly, and that certification might require a notarization.
Oh, that's interesting. So you could end up notarizing for both the facility manager on the affidavit and the auctioneer on the certification.
You could. It's all part of ensuring a compliant, defensible process from start to finish.
Now, for the question that I think is on everyone's mind, the money.
Right.
Let's use a hypothetical. I owe the storage facility $500 in back rent and fees, but my unit happens to contain some valuable collectibles, and at auction it sells for $2,000.
Okay.
That's a $1,500 surplus. Does the storage facility owner just get to pocket that extra cash as a bonus?
The answer to that is a very loud, very clear, hard N-O.
We don't get to keep it, not at all.
They absolutely cannot. That would be illegal.
Yeah.
The law is crystal clear on this. The facility is only entitled to be made whole.
Meaning they only get what they were actually owed.
Exactly. They can keep the amount of the back rent, plus any legitimate late fees, plus the actual costs of conducting the sale, like the cost of the newspaper ad or the auctioneer's commission.
So in my example, they'd keep their $500 and maybe another $100 for costs, but there's still like $1,400 left over. What happens to that money?
That money belongs to the tenant, the person whose property was just sold.
Wait, really? So they lose all their stuff, but they get a check in the mail.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
The facility is legally obligated to notify the tenant at their last known address that there are excess proceeds from the sale,
Yeah.
and that they need to claim them.
But what if the tenant is long gone? I mean, if they're not paying their rent, they're probably not updating their forwarding address.
And that happens all the time. If the tenant can't be found or doesn't claim the money within a specific period set by state law, it could be a year, it could be several years, the facility cannot keep it.
So where does it go?
They have to turn it over to the state. It goes to the state treasurer's office or the Division of Unclaimed Property.
So it becomes unclaimed property that the original tenant could theoretically find and claim years later.
Precisely. The key takeaway is the facility never profits from the sale beyond their actual debt. And to bring it back to notarization, the final paperwork in this whole process often includes one last affidavit where the manager has to swear that they handled these excess proceeds correctly according to the law.
It always comes back to an affidavit, a sworn statement.
It always does. It's the backbone of the entire process.
Wow. My head is swimming with Lien laws and warnings about whiteout. But I think it's time we switch gears. I can hear the mailbag being opened. It's time for our favorite segment.
Good question. What would you do?
That's the one. This is where we take questions about real-life sticky situations from you, our listeners, and try to offer some good advice. Who do we have up first today?
First up is Brad from Virginia. Brad writes, "My personal Facebook is full of memes and pictures of my cat. Should I start a totally separate business page for my notary work, or should I just try to clean up my personal one?"
The great Facebook dilemma. I feel this question in my soul. What's your take?
My take is unequivocal. Start a separate business page.
100%.
It's about professionalism. When a potential client, like a title company or a law office, looks you up, you want them to see Brad, the competent professional notary, not Brad, the guy who shares cat memes.
No offense to cat memes. But there's a time and a place. Plus, a business page gives you tools your personal profile doesn't.
Exactly. You can run targeted ads. You can get insights and analytics on who's seen your posts. You can have a book now button. It's a business tool.
So, Brad, the advice is keep your personal page personal. Maybe tighten up those privacy settings and build a clean, professional, branded business page to be your public-facing storefront.
Perfectly said.
Okay, next up we have Tim from Philly. Tim asks, can I write off my mileage for driving to the bank to deposit notary checks? Trying to maximize my deductions.
The classic tax question.
Yes, so let's start with the giant flashing light disclaimer. We are not CPAs or tax advisors. Please consult a qualified professional for tax advice.
Absolutely. But speaking in generalities.
Generally speaking, Tim, mileage for necessary business travel is deductible. The key word there is necessary.
Right. And here's the issue. In today's world with mobile banking, where you can deposit a check just by taking a picture of it with your phone, the IRS might argue that a special trip to the bank wasn't truly necessary.
That's a really good point. If you drove 10 miles to deposit a $15 check you could have deposited from your desk, that might be a tough one to defend in an audit.
However, the mileage you drive to get to a client signing, absolutely deductible. The trip to the office supply store for paper and toner, deductible.
The key is to keep a meticulous log. Date, purpose of the trip, start and end mileage. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen. That's our motto.
It is indeed.
All right, who's next?
Next we have Cold Carl from South Carolina.
Cold Carl? I wonder why he's cold.
Maybe he's just really cool.
Huh?
Carl asks, I want to start walking into title companies to introduce myself. Should I bring donuts, business cards, or just my charming personality?
I love this question. Carl, my friend, the answer is D, all of the above.
I was going to say the same thing. Bring all three, but use them strategically.
Okay, break it down.
The donuts get you past the front desk. That is a universal truth of office life. They are the great gatekeeper opener.
The business cards are your leave behind. It's the tangible thing they have with your name and number on it after the sugar rush wears off.
Exactly. But the charming personality has to be backed by competence. That's the most important part. Don't just be charming, be valuable.
Lead with value, yes.
Don't walk in and just say, hi, I'm a notary. Walk in and say, hi, I'm Carl. I specialize in error-free loan signings, and I know how to handle complex legal documents like the affidavits we've been talking about today without them getting rejected.
You're not selling yourself. You're selling a solution to their problems. Their biggest problem is errors and delays. You are the error-free, on-time solution.
If you can convey that, they will devour your donuts and they will call you.
Excellent advice. Next, we have Late Night Lisa. Lisa asks, do you charge an after-hours surcharge for signings that are past 8 p.m.? If so, how much?
Yes, you do. End of story.
Absolutely. Lisa, your time is your most valuable asset. Time in the evening, away from your family or your personal life, is premium time. You must charge for it.
It's also about setting professional boundaries. If you don't have an after-hours fee, you'll become the default 24/7 notary and you'll burn out.
So how much is appropriate?
It really depends on your local market, but a convenience fee or after-hours surcharge of anywhere from $25 to $50 on top of your regular fee is perfectly standard and reasonable.
The key is to be upfront about it. When they call and ask for a 9 p.m. signing, you say, absolutely, I can do that. My after-hours fee for appointments after 8 p.m. is an additional $30. Does that work for you?
No surprises. Just clear professional communication.
Perfect. Okay, last question. This one is from Paul in Orlando. How do you handle a signer who wants to sit and chat for 30 minutes after the signing is completely finished? Time is money.
The chatty signer. A common challenge.
You want to be polite, you want to be friendly, but you have another appointment to get to.
This is where you employ what I call the wrap-up technique. It's all about nonverbal cues.
Okay, tell me more.
The moment the final signature is done and the journal entry is complete, you start your exit process. You put the cap back on your pen, you close your journal, you start putting things back in your bag, you physically stand up.
You're signaling that the business portion is concluded.
You are. And as you're doing this, you combine it with a polite but firm exit phrase. Something like, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you, but I really have to get going to my next appointment.
It doesn't even matter if your next appointment is with your couch and a bag of chips.
They don't need to know that. It's
Yeah.
not a lie. You have a schedule to keep. I'd love to stay and talk more, but I have to run. It's polite, it respects their friendliness, but it clearly ends the encounter.
That is a masterclass in polite exits. Great advice. And for everyone listening, if you have a sticky situation, a weird notary question, or a business dilemma, we want to hear it.
Please send them to us. Email your questions to Derek@DerekSproles.com.
That's Derek@DerekSproul.com. We will try to answer as many as we can at the end of our shows.
We really do love getting them.
Well, this has been an incredibly informative hour. We've gone from reality TV to felony charges and back again. As we wrap up, what's the one final thought you want to leave with our listeners today?
I think it's this. Whether you're notarizing a simple car title for your neighbor or a stack of these complex lien sale affidavits for a huge corporation, your role is the same. Your seal is a symbol of trust and integrity. In the case of these storage liens, you are the guardrail. You ensure that a person's property rights aren't trampled, and at the same time, you protect the business from making a catastrophic legal error. It's never just ink on paper. It's a profound responsibility.
Beautifully said. It's not just ink, it's trust. Thank you so much for breaking all of this down for us.
It was my absolute pleasure.
And a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in. Remember to check out Derek Sproul's books, keep your notary journals detailed and secure, and we will catch you on the next one.
Executive producer, Derek Sproul.
Written by Marylyn Trotter.
Graphics and illustrations by Eddie Montes Travis.
Produced by Magnificent Works Business Solutions, Inc.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Are you trying to grow your notary business? Introducing the book, Notary Niche Navigator, your guide to loan signings, apostils, I-9s, and more by Derek Sproul. Build up your business and become the notary in your town that everyone calls for service. Get your copy of Notary Niche Navigator by Derek Sproul from any online bookstore, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble Bookstore, booksofmillion.com, bookshop.org, Mobile Notary by DerekSproul.com, or download from Kindle and expand your notary business today.